What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the ending of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, we did a whole ending explain, and so for this video, it's going to be more like emotional, more me just kind of talking about how I think in some sort of spoiler cast fashion. If you do want to see me breaking it down and, what I believe is going on, I did a whole video, I'll link it at the end of this one. Thank you, by the way, for all the support. I mean, the Final Fantasy support on the channel has been awesome, and you guys rock. I know the community can be kind of fractured sometimes, but you guys are awesome. So, all right, let's get into it. I got more theory videos coming. I want to talk about, like, the Aerith Genova theory that's floating around, but this is going to contain spoilers, okay? Full spoilers for the ending, and we're going to probably pick up around the time of Aerith's dream world, which is not, in my opinion, it's not an actual dream. So I do want to start there towards the end of the game, right? I mean, Cloud really succumbing to Sephiroth and, delivering him the black materia. That scene is freaking awesome as well, but I really want to start with the rest of it. And a blanket statement, right, before also we get too far. I still love it. I got to be honest. I know it is a divisive ending. I know not everybody's sold, and did they make it more convoluted than it needs to be? Yeah, they did. They absolutely did. I'm a little biased towards that, though, because I do like Kingdom Hearts. I do like Alan Wake. I understand kind of coming into a franchise or coming into a game, right, a legendary game, and making it more convoluted, introducing elements that not everybody was sold on in the first place. I get how that's made people mad, and that's totally fine. If you want to be mad, I have a lot of respect for that. But for me, I mean, I honestly have accepted it, or I've actually downright liked it, and so I'm kind of following it through, right? But just, I want to talk about just some of the key moments, because there were some moments that were like, oh my God, and I'm still thinking about these moments. Now, honestly, let me just jump into one immediately. I want to talk about when Aerith pushes Cloud, right? Because I've watched that scene so many freaking times, and really her entire, or that date, the date that they go on, is such a great, I guess it's not a scene, it's more like a sequence, right? Like multiple things going on there. It's so good, and it honestly, thinking about it and watching it multiple times, it might be the most emotional kind of moments of the entire game, because, I mean, I can tell you, right? I'm sitting on my couch, I'm playing the game, and like, the moment's coming. And honestly, it happens pretty quick, right? Like when he's walking through the Forgotten Capital and then the whispers take over, and before you freaking know it, you're about to slice her down, and then you just see Sephiroth, and it's like, okay, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. I know I'm jumping forward, but it's to make the point about the dream world. What I love so much about that timeline is it was very unexpected to me, right? Like, you're thinking, okay, well, what in God's name is happening now, right? Where they're both falling together. That's definitely a question. But the other part to it is, this is all new. These are moments that, and I think it's just beautiful moments, right? Like, where Aerith really gets a lot of closure as to how she feels for Cloud and being able to tell him, and then how Cloud feels for her. And I think that was just such a beautifully, done scene and sequence, and we've talked about Aerith as a character a little bit in the review. Just such a great character, so many great actors in this game, but they sell it, and that moment just felt like, it felt a combination of me trying to figure things out while also kind of enjoying the moment, while also kind of being depressed. It was like a list of emotions going on all at once, and I loved it, right? Because you're like, all right, I get what Aerith's trying to do. Even in that moment, I kind of got what she was trying to do, right? Where it's like, in my opinion, my theory is that she's telling Cloud it's a dream, her dream, to calm him down, because there's no need to, like, tell him all this info. Clearly, she's hiding. Clearly, she just wants to enjoy time with him one more time. And that is actually what makes him much more depressing. See, I mean, I thought that in the moment, but then once I've, beaten the game, and I've beaten it almost a week ago right now, and I just keep thinking about it. I mean, I think that's just one of the impacts of the game. But when I think back to specific moments in this game now, almost a week later, I think back to that sequence, because it's like, maybe at the end of the day, it's more depressing than anything, because it is just such a beautiful moment, and these two characters are so freaking awesome, and like, she knows what's going to happen. There's a lot of messages going on, messaging, maybe, whatever you want to call it, where, she's got to get the materia to herself in the alternate timeline. She thanks Cloud, right? And she says, I'll be all right. Just, I mean, every line that she says to him, especially when they're in the church, right? I love so much. And again, I think it it stands out because of all those emotions that's going on, but also stands out because, I guess, the originality. And that's not to say, like, following the script of the original is a bad thing or anything, but like I said, or what I was trying to tell you guys earlier, when you're walking up and you see the feather, fall down, it's like, oh, it's game time. Like, whatever's going to happen happens, but what should happen, or, what did happen in the past, right? So it's like, you're kind of just waiting for that moment to come, which, by the way, the entire game kind of felt like that, but specifically towards the end. Like, as soon as they fall and, Cloud gives the black materia, it's like, okay, like, we're almost there. And so, like, and I think the game did this really well. This is another element, I would say, to the dream thing. Every moment with Aerith is so important. And you start to realize that, like, the more you go in Rebirth, where it's like every scene is maybe the last time a certain thing happens. And I guess that's if you think she's going to die. But the point, and we'll get to it, at the very, very end, whether she's alive in an alternate universe or timeline or not, the Aerith of that timeline, the Aerith that was BFFs with Tifa and would talk boys, and the Aerith that it's just this sarcastic, but just down to her. She's just such a great character. These are the last moments you might see her doing certain things. And you start to almost kind of dread it. Like, as you go through it, you're like, oh my God, we're really getting to the end here. And the dream thing really encapsulates all of that, because you feel that. And that's really kind of the whole point, right? Like, this is the last time that these two are doing this date thing. And she very well knows that Cloud is kind of a little bit lost in them, which what else is new, right? But I love that scene so much. And I know a lot of people, like I said, go to specifically her in the church, pushing him through, and Sephiroth walks in. The music that's going on, which is kind of a mix of the songs she sang as well as her own theme, right? And it's kind of like blended in. So beautiful. The visuals, the colors, right? It's like the rainbow colored portal. Like, it's just so good. And it's emotional. And it's something that, again, I think back to right now, where I think, like, this is it for these characters, right? Like, you can replay the game, but I mean, like, their story, this part of their story is over, and you'll never experience it new ever again. There's only one part left, and it's kind of depressing, when I think about it like that. Like, I don't want it to end. I don't want these characters' relationships to end. And then when I think back, and it's like, that's kind of their last goodbye, and she said, it's been fun. It's like, oh, that hurts so much. And that's what I've honestly seen reflected in a lot of the comments, where that line specifically, I think it's been fun, or it's been fun, whatever she says, but it's like so powerful. Because, she's trying to smile, but she's not like full on smiling. Sephiroth is walking in, and he doesn't have his sword in his hand, but that doesn't mean he's there to chat, right? Like, I think he's there for a much worse purpose. So that's just a great scene. Honestly, I think no matter where you stand on the ending, because, what happens right after, or at least maybe 10 minutes after, is it. It's where they pull the cards, in terms of Aerith's death. But this part, I think many people, even if they're disappointed in the next part of this ending, I think a lot of people enjoyed this. And that's another thing I've just seen in the fandom, where it's like, even if you didn't like it, you appreciate, or again, this is what I've just seen other people say, the appreciation for how they made us feel about Aerith, the depth that they brought that character, Cloud, Tifa, Barrett. I mean, all these characters I think are just so good in this game. So, okay, that entire arc is done. I think the date was incredible. I was kind of with Cloud, where it's like, why are you acting like this? You're acting even more kind of bubbly and a little bit more pushy or aggressive in Aerith's way. Like, why are you doing this? And obviously, we know why it's happening, but from start to finish, literally when she wakes up, or when he wakes up, and she's saying, like, we don't have a lot of time, or, there's no time for dilly-dallying because there's not a lot of time left. It's like, oh my dear God, like, you're getting us right into it. Okay, so then we get, yes, I'm going to jump around, right? Honestly, let me just throw something out there for the Zack angle, right? Because that's a big part of the ending, but my main takeaway, like, I like Zack as a character. I think there's some beautiful moments with Zack. I would say maybe the number one thing is the flashback where he asks Marlene about Aerith and Cloud, if she likes Cloud, and she says yes, and that you weren't there. And, Zack loves Aerith, but then Zack accepts it and says, okay, like, I didn't see that coming, but now Cloud is kind of the most important, right? Because he loves Aerith to death, and he'll do whatever it takes to protect her, but clearly Cloud is the one that's got to do it, right? So, I love that moment. I think a lot of the ending, like the last 2 hours of the game with Zack, I think the biggest thing there is just to stress the timelines, right? I mean, there's things happening, and I like his personality and his kind of willingness to almost never give up or never get too down at things, right? Like, that's kind of his main character trait, but those things are great. Those things are there. But the things that I like the most, or I wanted to stress in this video specifically, is, a lot of his moments are just a stress stamp, right? And it's like, okay, these are the different timelines, and here's how things work when you make a crucial decision, when fate is breached, you create a different timeline, right? So there are things happening, but his biggest add-on to the ending of this game, what he brings to the table, is really explaining, what's happening, because it's done, a lot of it is done through him. Okay, so then we get to the death itself, right? So here's what I want to say. And I'm being genuine about this, because again, I know there's a big split of the ending. I get it. I get the other side. The one thing I will agree on, and the one thing I will say is messy, and I actually said this in the review, I said there's one element to the ending that didn't land the way that I think they wanted it to land. It is Aerith's death, okay? And I'll say this, I'm going to try to, I'm a guy who rants, right? So this is kind of hard for me to stay on topic. When Cloud blocks, even though it's really us, we're kind of manifesting it. When we block Sephiroth's sword and it deflects, okay? I think I I raised my fist in the air and I was like, yes, like we did it, like we saved her. The game made the choice to freaking save her. I remember thinking it was a victory, not just a moral victory, but literally like an achievement of myself, of Cloud, of the universe. And I'm genuine. Like my wife was sitting next to me, and then when the sword shifts, right, the camera shifts and you see blood. And I was like, wait, what? And I think I laughed, just like I kind of chuckled right there, where it's like I don't even know how to process it, right? He pulls it out, and then, Aerith falls. The thing, okay, I mean, in a sense, I love it. In a sense, I love it because it's so crazy. And the feelings I had of being very happy, being genuinely excited by the fact that they, I guess, changed it. And I know that's not going to be the same for each person, right? There's probably people in that moment that thought, screw this game, right? I wanted them to kill her right then and there. Now, I will agree with maybe part of that in a second, because my emotions went from super excited and happy to very confused and slightly sad. And this is where I think they messed up the most, right? Look, I am willing to give them the stuff with the timelines and the theories, and we've gone through some theories already. I'm going to continue going through theories in future videos. I love it. I honestly embrace it. Now, I'm not saying you have to, but I embrace what they're trying to do. There is the beat, though, the literal beat when she dies, that I think they did miss, because you are so confused. I was very confused. Like, when I did my ending explained, and I wrote a script. That took me all day, like a whole day to do that video. I had watched the ending over and over. I saw comments on Reddit and on YouTube of different people's interpretations. I had my own interpretation. I was trying to see, is somebody saying something that I missed or whatever. I love that. But at the same time, that really does take away from the raw emotional state you're supposed to be in the moment. And I don't know if the game wants you to. The thing I guess I would give the game is if you're supposed to really be Cloud. And that's tough, because are you really, like, when you're playing this entire game, are we literally Cloud? I guess it's possible, and there are some first person point of view things, but I don't know, because I feel like it's more of an adventure that's taking place and we're watching the whole story but he is he has been referred to as the unreliable narrator, so he is a narrator, so are we supposed to take him over? My point is, if we're supposed to be Cloud, I think we felt exactly what he felt, where it's like he achieved something. Then he's like, wait a second, Aerith's falling over. What in God's name just happened? Then he's getting the static, and he's seeing different realities, right? One where she's alive, one where she's dead. And it's like, what is happening? Zach says it well. We're like, what the hell is going on? Right? I love that. That line is so good. But, that's what I was thinking. And Cloud kind of doesn't even know either, right? Cloud is so mentally just broken at that point. Not even really because of himself, because of this timeline stuff, where what's he supposed to do? Is he supposed to be sad? Because Aerith is alive. And the thing that makes it more tough is, as we talked about in my theory and my ending explained, I do believe she's alive. I believe she's alive in a different timeline. Now, I think that timeline's Aerith will also die. That's a theory that I'll talk about in future videos going into part 3. I think Aerith of all timelines will die. So you can get kind of to Advent Children. I think, for literally right now, he created a timeline where she lived. I don't think that was a dream. I don't think that was in his head. I think he created a timeline where she lived, although in this actual timeline that we've been playing most of the game in, she died. Now, he doesn't know that. He thinks she is alive, but I guess it's like, especially in the moment, all of this info is coming at us. And I think that might be the worst part. Like, looking at it now, watching the ending like 10 times and trying to really break down scene by scene, you can kind of get it better, or you have moments to kind of pause and look at a frame and say, oh, there's the colored lighting, you know, there's the rainbow colored. Okay, this indicates a timeline shift. Like, you can do that now, but in the moment, it's just going and you got no idea what's happening. So, I mean, my weakness, right? I keep getting off task here with this video, but the weakness there is there really isn't any massive emotion of sadness and we lost her. And also, I would say it's hard to be too sad about losing her when, yes, now it could be timeline Aerith, or like the live stream Aerith, right? Talking to him at the end. It could also be the alternate timeline talk. The point is, though, she's still there. It doesn't really matter what the conspiracy theory and what the theory and what they actually did as a studio, but the point is, from us, just that raw emotion. Number one, it's jumping around and it's just too confusing to follow on initial watch to really say, oh yeah, I'm heartbroken about Aerith, because you don't know what the hell is going on. And then to add to that, number one, you play as her shortly after when you face that right at the end, you know, the final, I believe it's the final fight of that 10-11 stage boss fight, right? You play, you can, and I did. I literally shifted to her and I tried to play with her kind of one last time. It's like, well, I don't know what they're going to do in the next game. So, you know what I mean? It's like, it's hard to be too sad when you just did that, and then, you know, she sends him back, but then she's sitting next to him, and I know that's where the Genova theory comes in, which we'll do in a different video, but you have that scene, and then you have the ending scene, which I do not think, under any circumstance, is Genova, right? I do think that's Aerith on, like, the field, okay? So it's like, well, I mean, I am sad, and here's the thing. The takeaway, like, long-term, is I am sad. I am sad, but it's because of the theories that I've crafted myself, and the sadness of the current timeline Aerith, it is no more. And that, like I said, that relationship she has with Tifa, and just like the moment-to-moment interactions you have with her, and just all these great scenes throughout the whole game. Anytime she's in, I think she elevates the game. They're gone. Because, yeah, she could maybe have some moments with Zack potentially in the third game, or appear to Cloud. Maybe she'll appear to Tifa at the end of the third game, which I think she will, and that'll be heartbreaking, right? But it'll never be the same. And that is sad. And that is genuinely sad. So, like, long term, I do get sad, but I don't think I get sad, like, in the moment she gets stabbed, because it's too, you know what I mean? It's too hard to follow. So, I mean, I really kind of want to emphasize that moment, because I get what they're trying to do. And I mean, every frame in that sequence, right, is so important, because you got to look at the colors and you got to look at the shifting perspectives. I was sad, I'll tell you this. I was sad when Tifa and Barrett come up. So when Barrett comes up, looks, and then looks at Sephiroth, and he says, I'll kill you, right? Like, you feel the rage in him, and I want him to go up there and just start shooting. He actually doesn't, right? But he has that, like, aggressive tone to him, and I was like, yes. I mean, I was kind of waiting for the group to catch up to see Aerith dead, because it was like, I am mad. Whether or not she's actually dead, because, you know, you're still kind of confused in that moment. But hey, if she is dead, there is a reason to be mad, and go F him up, right? Literally, go take it to Sephiroth and destroy him. And you feel that. And I think it's just such a well-done, that is a well-done scene, because you feel that from those characters. When Tifa runs up, and now she sees both things, right? Because of the Mako. So it's like, okay, there's something going on there. But, I mean, she does see Aerith dead, right? Again, I would say where I was the most sad maybe isn't when Cloud, I think there is something kind of sad to, like, Cloud in the dead universe, like, putting her hand up to his face, like, that's kind of depressing, and I feel for him, right? But it's hard to feel for him too much, because in a different universe or whatever timeline, she's saying, you know, it's okay, Cloud, it's okay, and it's like, all right, well, I guess it, again, I would say it's a good, if you're supposed to be playing as Cloud, I think that's actually really well done, because us as players are thinking, much like Cloud, like maybe we're emotional, maybe we're just confused. He clearly was. He's like, Sephiroth is like talking in my ear. I'm seeing two different versions, like what's going on? And then Aerith kind of breaks through all that and says, okay, just, relax, like I'm here. And me as a player, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna calm down. And so if we're supposed to be Cloud, I felt the same emotions because he smiles, he's like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like, you're talking to me, you're not actually dead. I felt that to a degree as well. So if that was the goal, was to put us in Cloud's shoes, I think they nailed it. But I don't honestly know if that is the goal, so it's tough to fully determine. But yeah, I mean, I was the most sad when Tifa does it, because Tifa sees both, and especially after the fight when she runs up and she kind of puts her hand, and she's very like reluctant to do it, right? It's almost like she doesn't want to touch her and discover, like fully accept that she's dead. Maybe she thinks she'll touch her and she'll be alive. So I mean, I really felt for that. I think that was a very depressing and very sad scene. When they're sitting by the water, right? I mean, that is also kind of confusing, because, and I've talked about this actually in the Barrett video. One element I want to emphasize in this part of the ending is Barrett specifically. I mean, I think he's a great character, and again, we talked about that in a different video, but, he's on the verge of crying, right? Like, breaking down. Like, he absolutely cares, and I think that's a great character kind of thing that he goes through the whole game, and, he puts on the glasses, and it's like, oh, and I felt in that moment where I was like, oh, that's rough. That's rough, because, he's trying to mask it, right? Like, that's the whole point. So, I felt, I understood, I guess, what they were doing. And then Cloud and Tifa, I mean, like, you feel really bad for Tifa, but then Aerith pops up, and there's not much more to say, I guess, with that scene other than I was kind of confused. It's kind of, like, just jarring, where it's like, okay, you're not going to do the burial thing with her. Like, I don't really know what's going on still. The actual ending, I would say, is actually pretty sad, right? Because just everybody's mood is down. Yuffie saying, like, it's not fair. Like, that really, I'd say, got to me, where it's like, that was a good delivery. That was a really good line. I would say the most impactful thing, like, clearly there's theories and there's things that go forward, from this, but two things I kind of want to highlight. Number one, just the ending of Cloud and Aerith, I think is really good, and that's another thing that I think back to when I kind of think about how depressing the whole thing was, regardless if she will talk to him again in the third game, which I think she will, but regardless of that, it is still really sad for that to be this game's ending, or just an ending in general, right? Because, number one, they're referencing Remake, right? About, like, are you going to be able to get home? And then what if I said I couldn't or I wasn't? Like, I love those lines. Even her saying, like, what happens if what happens just if something happens, right? And she says, I'll send up smoke. And she's got that bubbly personality. It's like, man, every line or every delivery with that exchange, I think, is really good. But the biggest thing to me is, like, when they literally kind of say goodbye to, I think Aerith literally does say the word goodbye, but they promise, right? Now, this is something I actually didn't think about right away, weirdly enough. I thought about part of this, but not all of this. So, they make the promise. Cloud makes the promise saying, like, okay, I'm going to go after Sephiroth, you stop the meteor. And he goes. And she says goodbye, and it's a beautiful, I mean, visually, it's beautiful music. And then you see, no promises await at Journey's End. Number one, like, the impact of, like, this is it. Like, they're telling you about, like, the next game, right? So that's the first thing. I was like, oh, that's kind of chilling. Number two, I guess another reason why it's chilling is he just promised to stop Sephiroth, and then you see there's no promises that await. So it's like, okay, you're immediately contradicting it in a good way. That's number two. The other two actually didn't come to me right away. Number three would be, is that them, Square Enix? Is that the developers talking about, hey, no promises? And I think to a degree that's true. I don't think all the way, but I do think it's almost this double meaning, just like Rebirth is, just like Remake is. I do think no promises away at Journey's End is a mix of multiple different, like, interpretations, and one of them could be, hey, no promises about this ending. Like, now, here's the thing. I think they'll stay, pretty much on path. Obviously, they will take some detours, as they did in this game, and as proven by the ending, but I mean, are the good guys going to lose? No, they will not. I think they're going to win, right? So in a way, it's, I think they're just saying, hey, everything might not follow the same path that you think it will. But number 4 is her song, right? No Promises to Keep. And it's like the whole song is, I believe, for Cloud. There is some debate if it's like for Zach or for Cloud. I think it's for Cloud. It's 100%, I think, for Cloud. And, Promises is a very big part of that song, right? And to just have that kind of comeback as well. Promises was a word I would say uttered quite a bit in this game. So I don't know, just very, I'd say, I think chilling is the right word. It's more chilling than anything else when I saw that line. But honestly, guys, from, 2 hours away from the ending all the way through, it was a ride. And I would say it was way more good than bad. I was confused through a large portion of it, but I did, I was piecing together in the moment about the alternate timeline things, even with her dream. Like, I was understanding, I think, that her death is, I want to say messy, but I also kind of want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But it's okay, I'd say, if you don't want to do that. They were trying to do quite a few different things. And here's the thing, like, if our theories are right, like, you kind of had to do some of it, right? Like, if she does survive in a different timeline, you have to have the scene where he saves her, and then there has to be the visual cue that did happen, and there is. Like, he blocks, there's the rainbow colors, which indicates a different, path basically has been chosen, and I think that was it. Now, then you have to show that the current timeline Cloud was too late, and she dies, and it does get messy. So that does, like I said, I think it takes away from, like, the raw emotion of it. But at the same time, it's such a journey. I think the emotion was almost made up by Tifa later on, and then also right before it, because that dream sequence, there's a lot of emotions that I was thinking even in that moment, where I was like, man, this is sad. This is kind of depressing, but I'm enjoying it. Like, they're having fun. They do, like, the dance poses right for the picture. It's like, these are beautiful moments, and you know where it's leading, but you're trying to take it for what it is, and that I think might be the player as well as Cloud, right? Or even Aerith. Aerith knows as well. And then, you get to the end and when she pushes him, and I think that might be one of the best scenes in the game, if not the best. That will still, stay with me. So the good, I think, far outweighs the bad. And again, I am biased in the sense that the convolutedness of it, I'm not super upset about. Granted, it does need to have a good conclusion. Like, these things have to be going somewhere, and if there is, like, cop-outs or if they kind of pull back on an idea they were doing, you got to go for it. So whatever the plan is or was or whatever, right, you got to keep going, and there has to be a satisfying end. And yeah, the more convoluted you make it, the more you're putting a lot of pressure on that ending. So there absolutely is pressure on how they conclude in the entirety of Part 3, but also at the ending of Part 3, right? A lot of pressure there. But as long as they follow through, I think, what they've been trying to do, I have a lot of confidence. So let me know what you guys think in the comments here. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.